Got it. Ron, are there any do's and don'ts that you see for sellers that's especially that's kind of applicable right now? I know you've seen so many deals. I'm sure there's some trends that you see for things that sellers are doing that they maybe shouldn't be doing. Let's start there.
I think the main thing that we have as a problem with sellers is, well, two things actually: expectations, because everybody hears about somebody else selling a company, and chances are we are the ones that were involved in the sale. And so we know what the details were on that sale. And everybody thinks, okay, well, I do just as much in profit or in sales, shall we say, as that other company. So why are they worth so much more than we are? And there's about 100 different things that come into play when you're valuing a company, and they have no idea the attributes that the other company that's sold for. And so they're thinking, okay, this is what I'm worth. But in the end, the market will speak. And buyers are smart. They understand exactly what they're getting and what they're paying for, and they're willing to pay for more when they're getting more. And so, if there's affiliate networks or, heavy social media content and all the rest of it that can make a company more valuable, or in some cases, maybe somebody has a very limited amount of SKUs. And, if you've got all your SKU concentration into one particular product, you've got a problem, because if you ever lost that, and actually when we talk about distressed companies, that would be another example. I mean, we had one company that came to us that, we decided to go to market for well into the 8 figures. It was about 40 million. And not long after we went to market, we went under contract, and not long after we went under contract, his sales on the main product, which represented about 67%, started going down. And so obviously any buyer during a scenario like that, they didn't make an offer based on the fact that they might want to buy the company. They make an offer based on the fact they want to buy the company. And so, they're trying to find ways of staying in the game. And one of the best ways to do that is just stall the process out. And so they'll slow it down, and instead of closing in maybe 75 to 90 days, they'll close in, they'll say, well, let's push it back a month, and then let's push it back another month. And so that's one of the ways that they have of being able to do that. Now, in the end, we ended up doing that deal, even though he was down probably 40% on that one product by the time we closed. And the reason why we ended up doing the deal is because the person who was buying the company had completely different skills than the seller. And so they actually had something each other needed. And so, once again, we kind of mitigated the deal to bring less risk to the buyer. And we were actually able to get that to the finish line recently, where there wasn't a whole lot of money that changed hands at the closing table. The money was coming, in tranches down the road. So kind of an interesting scenario. But the other things that sellers, we really want to make sure that the sellers understand is that they come to us and they don't understand their numbers. Like, we're working with one right now that the balance sheet is massive. They owe so much money that, we've determined that the value of the company is maybe less than what they owe. So are they willing to come out of pocket at the closing table to actually sell their company? Because that's probably the only way they can sell their company. And one of the problems they've got is that they took one product line they started with, which did really well at first, but then it began to lose traction. Then they moved into another one that is really super promising, and it's moving up really quickly. It's actually the new one that's got value. The old one doesn't have a lot of value. And so, when it comes to the numbers, it's everywhere from, for example, the balance sheets. They have to make sense. If, your debt is so high that it can't accommodate a sale of a company. And most people don't quite understand the moving parts. For example, one of the things that this particular gentleman said was that if, when they buy my company, they'll be buying my inventory, and that's what we'll be using then to buy, out this particular piece of debt. It's like, well, no, when we tell you what your company is worth, it has to come with working capital. Your inventory is part of your working capital, which means that's being part of the closing, price that they're paying you. And so, what they have to understand is that, in this particular case, they actually are going to need, which we have somebody that we've already introduced them to, but they probably are going to need a turnaround consultant to make their company valuable, because there is a valuable part of that company. But unless they're willing to go renegotiate, the terms of the deals, the debt they've got on the books, I don't see any way to hit them.
Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications about new videos and interviews. And introduce yourself in the comments. Are you a buyer or a seller?